Pull up a chair and hang out with me today in the kitchen. We're going to go over a pantry recipe. I'm going to discuss some cookbooks I plan on using this year. I'm also going to make some fish and talk to you about some of the goals I have in the new year for making more things from scratch and canning, so come along. Hey everybody, I hope that your 2024 is off to a good start. I told my family that in the new year we need to start using some of the things we have in our pantry. We've been really bad about that. So I asked my kids today, what do y'all want for dinner tonight? They said they wanted a soup. They're both vegetarians, but they asked that I make a vegan base broth because last time I made our tomato basil soup, I used some turkey broth that we canned. And although Corey and I think it's delicious, it's a very smoky, intense flavor, the girls weren't as into it because they could taste the meat. Even though there was no meat in it, they could taste it. So they asked for a vegan version of soup today. I thought it would be fun and nostalgic to make some homemade alphabet soup because I've got the little alphabet-shaped noodles. So come into the kitchen with me. I'm going to show you all the ingredients we're using. They're all shelf stable from the pantry. And I'm going to go ahead and throw it in the slow cooker. Everything's pretty much already cooked. I have a break of time right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw it together in a slow cooker, let it do its thing. When we're ready for it, it will be done. So come along with me. I'll show you how we make this. I think alphabet soup is typically used with a chicken broth. But again, this is going to be a vegetarian recipe or vegan. So we are going to start with some red pepper and tomato soup broth. I've got my alphabet noodles. I'm going to use some of our freeze-dried onion, some onion and garlic powder, and then you can use a couple of cans of mixed vegetables if you prefer to make this, but one of my daughters doesn't like corn, so we are going to just use a can of potatoes, green beans, sweet peas, and carrots. I'm probably going to add a little bit more water to it. This is 32 ounces. I will be adding the seasoned vegetables better than bouillon, the sauteed onions, and then the Italian herb. I'll probably do just maybe like a teaspoon of each. So let's get started. Let's start by adding a can of green beans. If you plan on adding more water, you can just use the water inside here for added nutrients. Just out of habit, I drained it, I forgot. I am going to go ahead and keep the liquid from the carrots. I'm going to give the vegetables a rough chop. If you buy carrots that are already diced up, that helps. But unfortunately, I did not have any. So we're making do with what we got. I did drain the potato water though. I just didn't want all that extra starch. So these are diced up luckily, so I don't need to dice these. Now let's go in with a can of undrained sweet peas. I love my onions. That's probably the equivalent of maybe a half an onion. Let's go in with some garlic powder. A forkful of minced garlic, some onion powder. Moving on to the better than bouillon, we're going to start out with the Italian herb. Just going to take a little smidge. It's highly concentrated. Now let's put a little dab of vegetable bouillon. Now let's put a little bit of sauteed onion bouillon. We're going to go in with the broth. So I put about a cup of water in here and gave it a little bit of a shake so I can get the rest of the roasted red pepper and tomato broth out of here since I was going to add water anyway. So we're just going to dump this in. And we're going to add these alphabet noodles about an hour before we're ready to eat. So we're going to let it go. Low and slow is the tempo. Corey is usually the person I ask to go into the freezer. I get overwhelmed because it's like stuffed, and help me find things. For example, I'm looking for the Brazilian bites. They're these little fluffy balls of bread, if that makes sense. They're real soft. They're flaky on the outside and soft in the middle, and they've got cheese in it. I can't find them, but I know we have them. I also have some dinner rolls, but I don't think I have enough time to thaw these out. I think you need to let them rise for a little bit. I might make the girls grilled cheese sandwiches on sourdough. Corey and I are actually going to try to start eating more fish. So him and I are going to be having cod tonight, but we'll have a side of the soup to go with it. I was debating over whether or not to put some little tomatoes into the soup. We have some that need to be used, but we'll probably just eat these on their own or in a salad. But I wanted to show you, look at they're even called teeny tiny tomatoes. I got these from Trader Joe's. Look how small they are. Aren't those adorable? I think it's a good idea for anybody who is trying to stay prepared to get yourself some hard copy cookbooks or rent some from the library and make copies of them. I know that a lot of recipes we make, we just go off memory or we rely on Pinterest. In the new year, I'm going to focus on using my cookbooks more. If we were ever in a situation, whether the grid went down or we just lost access to the internet, if you don't have a lot of recipes stored up in your memory, it would be good to have some hard copies. I used to have like maybe 30 cookbooks, but I'm trying to downsize. I just want to kind of keep the ones that I think I'd be using more frequently. Just having a couple of vegetarian daughters, I plan on having a couple of vegetarian cookbooks. Fix it and forget it. This is my favorite phrase. And these are all slow cooker recipes. I remember when I was in my 20s just living on my own, I loved all the Campbell's recipes. They were usually like 5 ingredients or less, and they all involve like 1 can of Campbell's soup. So I thought this would be good to hang on to, the simple 1, 2, 3 recipes. The Little House Cookbook, and it is Frontier Foods from Laura Ingalls Wilder's Classic Stories. This is a great book to have around the holidays if you're making little jars of soup or hot chocolate for people. It's called Muggums, and it's soups and bread mixes that you put in a jar. So it's got a ton of recipes. This is a Walmart family cookbook. I've had this for maybe, I don't know, 20 years or so. No, it came out in 2004. Yeah, 20 years, right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, good guess on my part. From employees, and I've used a couple of recipes out of here, and they're really good, and they're pretty easy to follow. Another Campbell's family favorite. You know, when you go to the register at the grocery store, I've collected these over the years, and if I found like more than one good recipe in it, I would just hang on to the book. Otherwise, I would just tear out the recipe and pass it on to someone else or recycle it. This was a cookbook of a former employer of mine, where all the employees, kind of like the Walmart cookbook, where we just all pitched in and put our own recipes into one book. Plain and Happy Living. These are Amish recipes and remedies. So using herbs and different things like that if you've got a cold or you're not feeling well. This is instructions on my dehydrator, different recipes. Tasteful Treasures. This is a teen challenge, so this probably has like some recipes that are simple for your young adult children. Easy Everyday Favorites from allrecipes.com. That's one of my favorite websites. Another slow cooker recipe. Slow cooker cookbook, 7 ingredients or less. This one is even better. 3 ingredients, 4 ingredients, and 5 ingredients. Best recipes from the backs of boxes, bottles, cans, and jars. You know how sometimes you find some of the best recipes on a food item that you purchased on the back of a box or a can? So I thought that was kind of cool. It's got Campbell's and Mott's applesauce and different things like that. So it's a cool collection of all those recipes, and then Depression era recipes. These are tried and true recipes, have just a few ingredients. And there was another book, but I've got my survival books in a separate area than my cookbooks, and I believe that I have a book where you can substitute this for that. So if you're making something and you're out of eggs, it'll tell you, okay, use an avocado or applesauce or oil. I gotta go bring that in here, but I just wanted to show you my cookbooks that I have to give you some inspiration to start thinking about maybe collecting some cookbooks. You can get a lot of cookbooks at yard sales and in your neighborhood. If you're on Facebook, they've got the marketplace that you can look at. Chloe is going to be so excited that we received another smoked turkey. This is our third one this year. Oh, well, not this year, but whenever we make the turkey broth that I told you earlier in the video she was complaining about, this is what we use. It's just such a strong smoky taste and smell throughout the house when we're canning it. So we just received one. We got to get this unpacked, unfrozen, and I know what we're going to be eating for dinner the next couple of nights. Our previous turkey was 7 pounds, and Corey and I ate that by ourselves. This one's 8 pounds, so we hope to make it last, can the broth, and get through the year, or at least till next Thanksgiving. So we just tasted the alphabet soup, and it's good, but you know, with this red pepper, there's a little bit of sweetness to it, and with tomato soup anyway. So just to offset the sweetness, we added about a teaspoon of this fried onion paste that we got from the Asian market, and just put a little bit more salt and pepper in it. It is very, very good. Corey just got back from Aldi, and he has been on a hummus kick lately. So this is like his third time to go back and get roasted red pepper hummus. And then he also got some olive tapenade. It's a lot easier to just go buy convenience food that's already made. But when you have the ingredients on hand anyway, like we have a case of chickpeas, and we've got roasted red peppers, and we've got the tahini and the olive oil and everything you need to make hummus. And even with the olive tapenade, we have some olive tapenade that we recently bought for our egg salad sandwiches, or you can just chop up some olives if you've got those on hand. But anyway, if you could share, what are some things you're doing that you used to maybe buy out of convenience, but now you just make them from scratch? Just things that are easy, where you have the ingredients laying around your pantry or your kitchen. Just let me know if you could drop that in the comments below. It's time to put in the pasta, and ever since we had found bugs in our pasta, I've been really paranoid and going through it with a fine-tooth comb. So I'm going to go ahead and look closely at this before I put it in the soup. Corey just made a dad joke. He said, "There's bugs in there." And I said, "What do you mean? You've seen bugs in there?" And he says, "No, but if the letters B-U-G are in there, there's bugs in there." So, wah wah. Corey is my hero. I told y'all that he can find anything in the freezer that I can't find. So here are our Brazilian bites, and these are Parmesan flavored. So we're going to just bake those according to the package directions, and they should be done at the same time that the soup is ready. Okay, the Brazilian bread bites are done. Ooh, look at all that cheese in there. It's gooey, gooey goodness. This soup is really good, and it was so easy to throw together. Now, the letters are a little bit harder to see because the broth is thicker and it is tomato based, so it's kind of like a reddish color. It's not clear, you know, like chicken broth. But I think using the roasted red pepper in addition to the tomato base, really helped it. It kind of kicked up the flavor. And I like thinner soups. This is more of like a chunky stew. So, like I said, you can probably add a little bit of water to kind of thin it out. But, mmm, it's really good. And I'm kind of surprised the canned vegetables held up as well as they did. Because I've had this going for a few hours, I was worried that the vegetables might get too mushy. But it's perfect. It's good. I hope you give this a try. Tonight we're making a tried and true fish recipe using cod, and we put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of a baking dish and sliced up some lemon. Then we threw a couple of sprigs of thyme, and then followed up by using some Old Bay and sprinkling that on the fish. We also threw in some tomatoes that we needed to use. I love blistered tomatoes, those are my favorite. And then we just put them in the oven at 400 for about 15 to 20 minutes. Next, we opened a can of Margaret Holmes green beans. Those are so good on their own, you don't even need to put seasoning in them. They're delicious. I apologize that we were unable to do a taste test. It usually gets chaotic around the house during dinner time, but I assure you that this was delicious. I hope you tried this recipe and let me know what you thought of the video. Have a great day.